What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the college football betting preview, week 1, part 1. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-host, Collin Wilson. Today, with the unique schedule, Labor Day weekend coming up, we are going to hit on all of the games on Thursday and Friday. Those are 15-ish games. We'll even touch on a little San Diego State. But we're just going to go straight through the board Thursday and Friday. And then we'll have an episode that we're recording tonight. We're recording this on Tuesday morning. We'll hit all of the rest of the board Saturday and Sunday. We'll have an episode that comes out Monday too that covers UNC TCU. So let's get right into it. I guess before we get into it, do you have any one takeaway from week 0? It was there was a lot of sloppy football. Iowa State, Kansas State was pretty sloppy. Pretty disappointed in what Kansas State looked like. UNLV looked really poor. Do you have any key takeaways or anything that you wanted to mention from week 0? Obviously, a very small slate.
I feel like we should have a trophy every week for worst defense in the nation, and UNLV would be leading right now. I think a small take is that the loss that I took in the Iowa State-Kansas State first half was completely due to inefficient red zone play and so many fumbles and the ball being sloppy and on the field because of the weather in Ireland. It's only Tuesday when we're recording this stuff, but the state of Florida, North Carolina, there is weather in these games. There is drizzle and heat. There is spots of rain. So I think keep your eyes out for that, because these teams that aren't very good tackling, or these teams that maybe have new running backs, or their coach wants to run a toss at the goal line, keep an eye on that, because there could be sloppy weather on the East Coast.
All right, let's get right into the games. We got a lot to get to, so we'll start 5:30 Eastern on ESPN. We're heading down to the Panhandle in Florida. USF will host Boise State. Right now, Boise State 6.5-point favorite, total 63.5. I played USF here, talked about this all summer. I really wanted 7 or better. So I would, if you didn't bet it already and you weren't following along in the award-winning Action Network app, I'd wait to see if a 7 pops again. If you do want to follow along on USF, humidity, weather could be an advantage here for USF early in the season. The Bulls haven't beat a ranked team since 2016. They're 0-19 over that stretch. But I think they're going to give Boise a game. Byron Brown, healthy, different offense with him. We saw how much he meant to that offense last year. It just wasn't the same. They've been recruiting well over the past couple of years. Alex Golich just has this program on the rise. I've liked who they brought in over the past 2 years. The whole secondary's back. This USF team, I just like where they're building toward. And this Boise State team, they're good, but there's no Ashton Genty here. It's the 7th offensive coordinator since 2019. There's still a couple spots on the offensive line, left guard, right tackle, that I have questions about. Maybe this kid, Marshall, might be the guy at wide receiver, but we'll see. There's still some questions I have with this Boise State team. And USF, just lots of seniors. I mean, look no further than that offensive line. You got 5 grad senior starters, over 115 career starts there. There are a couple questions I have with South Florida. I'm going to be watching closely. This is pretty much so many teams that we're going to talk about, but lost a 3-headed monster at running back, lost some guys that they counted on last year at wide receiver. So the skill positions, assuming Brown is healthy, will the skill positions hit early? That's what I'm watching. I've liked who they brought in, but that's kind of the biggest question. And then there's probably 2 sophomore starters in the secondary, but I like USF here, 7 or better. I'll call it right now. I think they pull out the upset. What say you in this game?
100%. They were going to be in a money line round robin. There is a 6.5 out there right now on the board. I'm probably going to take that by the time you and I get to talk. And I haven't fired on it because my projection was higher, like around 10. But I think I was in the exact same position a year ago when Genty and this team went to Georgia Southern. And I don't know if it's the heat or what, but they couldn't tackle. And Eric Shenander is still the defensive coordinator last that I checked. Now, I think it's a drop-off on the offensive coordinator side for Boise State. But let's be realistic here about Maddox Madsen. Everybody loves this 21-3 TD to INT rate. but 7 big time throws to 13 turnover worthy plays. I mean, there's smoke and mirrors in this kid's number, and I really think they have a downgraded offensive coordinator. Then you look and, who's taking up the slack for running? Sire Gaines, Malik Sherrod. I mean, are you going to be able to, fit the aggregate, the money ball of what Ashton Genty was? I mean, Gaines had limited carries, 20 of them 4+ yards after first contact. This is almost the same weather that we had at Georgia Southern. I mean, it's going to be humid, 88 degrees. I think that plays a factor. Plus, you mentioned South Florida, like their wide receivers, Keyshawn Singleton, 1.8 yards per route run as a freshman at South Florida last year. And a huge shout out to Chaz Nimrod, who transfers in from Tennessee, Bentonville High School kid, just like me. So a big shout out to him. But he was had some electric catches for Tennessee, and now he follows his former offensive coordinator down there. And you mentioned Byron Brown. All we need is a healthy Byron Brown. And we know that we're going to get that in this game. It's probably the last time we'll know if he's healthy. But again, I take it back to Eric Shenander because he's had problems at all of the stops, UCF, Nebraska, here. I mean, I know they get 4 of their top 5 tacklers back, but it's just a very loose, poor tackling defense. You could get some weather here, and you get a bunch of South Florida players that can absolutely juke you out of your shoes. So I'm with you on this. I'm going to buy this 6.5. It just got hit. I'm buying it right now in the app. You've already got it. It's going to be a money line.
Yeah, I mean, the Boise State, I think their front seven probably takes a step back. Secondary is all back, but they weren't great last year. Yeah, I think the dog is the player. I projected close to 5. So after adjusting for everything, so I like South Florida there. Let's move on to 6 Eastern on Big Ten Network. Ohio and Rutgers. This is Rutgers now sitting at a 15.5 point favorite. Total 49.5. The 2 games I talked about all summer primarily were USF and Rutgers. I loved Rutgers. I bought them early. I would still lean that way at 15.5 if I had to play it, but it's getting up there in price. I mean, I project Rutgers a little over 17. I'm super, super low on Ohio coming into the year. Now, for what it's worth, I was last year too and was dead wrong. But this returning production, huge advantage here. Rutgers, I think they're top 20 in the country. Ohio's close to right around 100th. And this is a team that's bottom 10 in incoming talent. Like, they're just not bringing in a ton of talent. Yes, Navarro's back at quarterback, but you lose Tyus at running back, over 1,200 yards. Owen, who was so big for them at receiver, just that guy that Navarro would look to on third downs, key downs. He had over 1,200 yards receivers. You also lose your top 4 offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. More importantly, the defense just got absolutely ravaged. I mean, you lose your top 5 defensive linemen, your top 4 linebackers, your top cornerback. Even the special team should drop off. You look at some of, like, they're replacing a lot of those guys who hit. One of them, by the way, is on Rutgers, on the defensive line, transferred to Rutgers. And one of Rutgers' offensive line, who used to be at Ohio, this is just how college football is now back, starting at left tackle for Ohio. But they're replacing them with guys from like Pine Bluff and lower level guys. The defense could take an enormous step back. It was an extremely underrated unit last year. And by the way, they also lost Tim Albin to Charlotte. Rutgers, they did lose. They lost, I think, 8 or 9 guys to the NFL who were either drafted or signed unrestricted free agents. So there was some talent that left, bunch in the secondary, but that defense was really hurt last year. New coordinator in, probably going to see more too high safety looks. I like some of the talent that they brought in. I think they approached the portal very intelligently. The biggest question that I have on offense, I like the receiving core. Obviously, their replacement young guy at running back. Calic Manis is back at quarterback. That left tackle spot, you lose your left tackle to the NFL. The guy who you thought was going to start got hurt. The Lafayette transfer, Lansdale. But that was at the very beginning of camp, so they've had time to kind of find out who that's going to be. There might be a rotation. We'll see. But I think Ohio is in trouble here. I think Rutgers puts it on them. I think Rutgers minus the points is the play here. What say you?
Yeah, I completely agree, but I took a different angle at this. I mean, I can't get over the fact there's one returner on the offensive line for Ohio. That's really bad against a Rutgers pass rush defense that was top 35 last year. And I expect that to be the thing here. And if you like Havoc on the defensive side, Rutgers is always a staple on the offensive side. And Havoc allowed top 5 last year. I believe they were top 5 the year before. It's just what a Schiano's offense is. They are very buttoned up from the very start. They do not shoot themselves in the foot. And, this is an undersized Ohio defensive line going up against mostly, returning experienced guys for the Rutgers offensive line. So I expect Kaliak Manis to at least not have hands in his face and to be able to have time to make things happen. And running back CJ Campbell comes in from FAU last year, 4 yards after first contact, 11 TDs and no fumbles. So the no fumbles part like fits into this Rutgers offense perfectly. And I think the big question is, does Schiano take his foot off the pedal? Sometimes you get in these games and you're like, oh man, I'm holding 50.5. I don't know if I can cover that. If you look at the box score from the last 2 years, right, non-conference games where he could have just taken his foot off the pedal, box score against Temple, 23 points in the fourth quarter in 2023. Last year, 27 second half points for Rutgers against Howard, 28 second half points against Akron. Schiano does not take his foot off the pedal when he gets involved with these smaller school MAC.
That Howard game was unbelievable.
So I like the team total over 31.5, over 32 better than I do the spread, although I don't expect Ohio to get their share of points here. So I like them both, but I'm preferring to play the team total over in Rutgers.
All right, let's move on to ECU at NC State. Little rivalry game here. I'm really looking forward to this one. 7 p.m. Eastern on ACT Network. This is always fun when ECU plays NC State, but the stakes are even higher because these two teams played in a bowl game last year, which ended with ECU upsetting NC State, and there was a brawl at the end. There's no love lost between these two programs that are close in proximity. Market has moved quite a bit on the side and total in this game. Mm-hmm. This is another game I mentioned all summer. I missed the boat on the initial move. I wanted this over very bad and high total, which is always scary in week one. I also kind of wanted NC State, and that got popped yesterday as well. The way that I approached it is I played NC State team total over 37.5. I'm going to be looking for a live over, too, if this starts out slow. There should be a lot of tempo here. Now, NC State was super slow last year. I think they were like 129th in seconds per play. They were like down there with Army and Navy. New OC and Kurt Roper, he's talked a ton about tempo. And a lot of coaches do that, but I think that there's some merit here. I think that they're going to be significantly faster. I do like the skill position players that NC State has. Whether you're talking Smothers, Rogers, Jolie, the tight end is a stud. He might be their leading receiver. So I like the skill talent of this offense. Now, they did lose 2 offensive linemen to the NFL. So, center, right guard, that's the positions to watch up front. But I think this offense is going to score because I like some of the pieces. But most importantly, this ECU defense, I think, is going to take an enormous step back. One defensive starter back. And some of the talent that they brought in, not too high on. I think that there's going to be a huge drop-off in that defense. Same thing with NC State. Like the NC State defense, I'm also worried about losing a good coordinator. And then you have this ECU offense, which we know is going to go fast, air raid. So I think the tempo is going to be there. And the NC State defense, you look, they lost their top 5 defensive backs, 2 to LSU, 1 to Indiana, 1 to South Carolina, 1 to the NFL. You lost a linebacker in the portal to Miami. So Van up front, I think this defense is going to take a big step back. I think it's just points. I think ECU's in trouble here. And here's the thing. Not sure I'd laid 14 now. I wish I got this earlier. It was sitting at 11.5. I was saying, okay, maybe ECU's like a cute dog and this gets hit down a bit. It obviously didn't. So maybe I'll look live on the side, but the way I played it was the team total over. How does that last year's result impact either the spread total or the team total? In my case, if ECU is trailing if ECU's trailing like, I don't know, 35-21 with a couple minutes to go, like you could say like, oh, NC State is fired up, revenge, but ECU's fired up too. These teams don't like each other.
Yeah.
The only thing that I could see how that impacts this game, NC State doesn't take a knee late, punches it in to just kind of rub it in after what happened last year. So that's like, you could get like an extra bonus score. That's about it. But I'm definitely worried about this NC State defense. What say you?
I agree with everything you said. I do make the game 16, so I would still play NC State at the current number, but I have struggled with this total because I missed the boat on the over also. And so now I'm starting to think, at what point do I fire on the under? But I think that the entire world is going to have an over ticket here. And I think we're going to clip what we have at some of the sharpest books. They've clipped a key of 62, and the next stop after that would be 65. So am I letting this roll until kickoff and considering an under? There are things that make me think there could be issues with offensive continuity. Hauser did not have a great bowl against NC State. If you look into the big time throws and turnover worthy plays, he was great before that against North Texas and Navy. He really came into his own with 7 big time throws and 2 turnover worthy plays, but he wasn't that great in the bowl. And then you look at scheme change, under Roper for NC State. Like, is that going to fire off with CJ Bailey right off the bat? I mean, he was 14 of 18 in big time throws, turnover worthy plays. Casey Concepcion is gone. Now your main target is tight end Justin Jolly. And this offensive line is like, oh, NC State returns over 100 starts, but they were 129th in havoc allowed. NC State was sloppy with the ball. Like, they are not really good at like maintaining offensive momentum and sustaining drives. I don't understand. Like, I think from a tempo perspective, you're correct. And this ECU secondary is going to be one of the worst in the AAC. So it's just impossible to even look at it under. But at the same time, I would have made this total last year in the bowl game 54, which it ended like what, 47? So like, are we like approaching 60, blowing through 62 and approaching 65 before kick? I mean, at what point do you kind of say these offenses are, not to say they're Stanford-like, but they're not equipped to sustain drives? Now there's going to be explosives, but I don't know. I'm kind of getting to the point where it's like, once we cross the 62 barrier, I'm going to start looking under, maybe a first half under, because it's new schemes, right? And Hauser's wasn't that great against NC State in the first place. So I lean NC State. I might play a first half under here.
Yeah, I mean, ECU on paper, you could say, like, look, they lost Harris in the backfield, 5 of their top 7 pass catchers, 3 offensive linemen, so like a couple transfers up front. That's something to monitor. But I still think they're stacked at the skill positions, especially wide receiver with the Smiths, and they brought in some transfers that I like. So then the NC State defense, especially on the back end, both of these teams on the back end, I think are going to take an enormous step back. I project 16.1. So, yeah, would certainly still lean NC State's way, and they might not let their foot off the gas. But let's move on. Let's go back to the state of Florida. Talk a little Jacksonville State at UCF. This game kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. UCF got hit. It was a service release that moved this line. Look, this is one of the games in right now. UCF's in an 18.5 point favorite. Total is down to 52.5. It's come down a couple points. These are two teams that I want to sell early in the season. I mean, Jacksonville State is a total reset. You have a new head coach, new offensive coordinator in Clint Trickett. It's probably going to be more pass heavy, obviously, going from Rich Rod to Trickett. But Gavin Wimsatt is your quarterback. Not a fan there. Their best player is probably Petway, the receiver, but I don't think he's going to play. He's not on the depth chart. He's been dealing with an injury, game time decision, and he's probably their most reliable player on offense. Their tackles could be former transfers from Hampton and Tusculum. Freshman center, not great. Their D also lost everyone on the back 7. UCF, same thing. It's a complete reset. They could start like 8 to 9 transfers on offense, probably 8 to 9 transfers on defense, 7 to 8 on offense. You're going to have Scott Frost coming in. How fast is Frost going to go? That's a question I have. Cam Fancher was named the starting quarterback. That can't be a good sign for how that quarterback battle went. I was actually shocked that he won it. They do have some speed at receiver. I like some of the guys they brought in on the back end of the defense, but by the way, there's a UCF transfer that's starting at corner for Jacksonville State. All these teams, it's crazy. But Fancher and Finch, that combination. I mean, Fancher and Grinch, excuse me, Alex Grinch, the defensive coordinator.
Right.
Not a fan there. So many moving parts here. This is, to me, let me see what I make this. I made it 16.8. My gut says UCF rolls. Am I betting this game? Absolutely not. I want no part of this game. There's nothing here for me. I will be watching. There's a ton of moving pieces. I want to see how both looks. I want to see the tempo of each, how pass heavy Jacksonville State is, and obviously all of the portal movement. But yeah, two teams I want to sell playing each other week one. No thanks.
Yeah, I took Jacksonville State plus 17 like a month and a half ago because I made this game 14, and I figured this team would go the other way because Scott Frost continues to come out and say that's a brand new offense, a brand new defense. We don't have an identity. We don't know who's playing here. We don't know who's playing there. And oh, by the way, we're not going to practice out in the heat. We're going to be indoors for most of our practices. So I don't see Charles Kelly, and I'm not even sure if Jacksonville State even has an indoor facility, but I don't see Charles Kelly letting up on his team and not practicing out in the heat. So for various reasons, the 17 was out there and I took it. And now a service release has got it up to 18.5. So if you want to live trade this game, you can try, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to live trade out of that 17 at some point. And I think, Charles Kelly's trying to give an indication about what this offense is going to be. His quote is, you throw to score and you run to win. So by that definition, you would expect the Gamecocks to be throwing all the time out of the gate with their quarterback, with Gavin Wimsatt. But I mean, his best year was 2023 at Rutgers, 1,700 yards, 9-8 TD to INT ratio. That earned him a Kentucky transfer where it just didn't go well through 39 passing attempts. If Petway's not there, then if you're throwing to score, who are you throwing to? I mean, he was 2.1 yards per route run. That would be a big boost. That probably is the reason the total has trickled down a little bit. And you have to, wonder what would this total have been last year if these two teams would have been played? If Rich Rod was still the coach, it would have been 62. So is the tempo of this game worth a 10-point drop? Is it justified? So I'm going to stay away from the total. I'm going to try to live trade out of Jacksonville State plus 17. But you're right. There's a lot of questions here. I'm wanting to see how. First off, Grinch is a defensive coordinator I could never get into in the first place. How conditioned are these guys stuck? Did Frost really prepare them for the beginning of the season? And does Grinch have, I mean, if UNLV missed 17 tackles in their opener, how many missed tackles are going to be on this UCF defense? Those are the things I'm looking for here.
Yeah, I have no clue on this game, to be quite honest with you. I really don't trust my number all that much with just both teams, so much turnover and new staffs and all across the board. This is one of your biggest uncertainty games of the weekend. All right, let's move on to 8 p.m. Eastern on FS1. We'll start to get into some Big Ten. Let's start off with Minnesota hosting Buffalo. This line, let's check it. There's been some movement here. Minnesota's sitting at 17.5-point favorites here. They were up at 18.5. They went down below 17. Another service release here knocked this up. It's come back down a little bit. They're both two new quarterbacks in this game. Minnesota lost a lot on offense. They lost Max Brosmer, who's looked fantastic in preseason. I loved him last year. Very complex offense, pro-style offense that Minnesota run. Took him a little bit to kind of get it. And then once he did last year, he was great. It wasn't your typical Fleck offense. They threw a lot more than usual, but you lose Brosmer, you lose 80% of your receiving production. You basically lose 5 offensive linemen. Yes, 2 are back, but they're moving positions. So the one thing, you bring in a couple transfers of receiver. The one thing that that you have on this team is the running back room. I assume that's what Minnesota is going to lean on here. Heavy zone running team like this, that they're going to, I think they're just going to, this is like old Fleck offense, slow, methodical. We are bigger up front. So there's questions on the offensive line, but they do have a lot of size. They will be able to out-muscle Buffalo. So I think they're going to say, like, look, we're going to line it up. We're going to run it. we're going to milk the clock, and then we're just going to overpower this MAC team at home. So I think that's probably the game plan for Minnesota. And then let's ease Lindsey, their new quarterback, the freshman quarterback, into it. On the defensive side, Minnesota, you lose 2 defensive ends to the NFL, you lose a linebacker to the NFL, and then a trio of corners, including Wally and Robinson, who are really good. So that's kind of the question there. Can Buffalo take advantage or take on Taquan Roberson, the former, what was he at? Penn State, UConn, and Kansas State. That's the question there. New quarterback, got a good running back. Snow's back at receiver. I do still have some questions on the offensive line. I think the Buffalo defense is feisty. You do lose Dolak, who led the nation in tackling last year, but they still have some guys. They have 2 really good defensive ends. They're moving one to linebacker next to Red Murdoch, who was second in the country in tackles. Little undersized at defensive tackle, and they're going to be without Sousa there for game 1. But I think that their defense can hold up well enough here. So I don't know. My first look here, this has come down slightly, and 45 is semi-important. So it's come down from 45.5 to 44.5. I think this is a grinder. If you look back, some of the games that Fleck has played against MAC teams since arriving in Minnesota, 17-7 versus Buffalo, 25-6 versus EMU, 31-26 versus Miami of Ohio. That one was a little higher scoring, but I think this plays out maybe closer to those first 2 that I mentioned. So I'm looking under here, lean Buffalo. Mm-hmm. I'm just worried that Minnesota could just run it down their throat, and I don't know what Roberson is going to give this Buffalo offense. What are you seeing here?
Exactly the same. I lean Buffalo. I want them. I'm ready to fire on them, but I'm hesitant, and I like the under here too. But the problem is I think Buffalo has one of the best punt returners in all of the MAC, and Victor Snow. You mentioned him at wide receiver, and I feel like a special teams play, like a punt return touchdown, could be the one that breaks that total. I could definitely see that happening because Victor Snow is that good for Buffalo. And then you look at Buffalo's offensive line and running back group, probably the best in the MAC. And then Minnesota's new corners and defensive line, they're just loaded with transfers from the FCS. So I do see positives for Buffalo to possibly get some traction, move the ball, and get into scoring position. And then when you go to the other side of the ball, the Minnesota offensive line has, 24 career starts, and they got another 55 through the portal. And I think we talked about this on the preseason podcast for the Big Ten. These players that are filling the offensive line are not good at all. I mean, a true freshman left tackle, Nathan Roy. We got Dylan Ray at right tackle, who came in from Kentucky. He was graded the 525th best guard. Marcellus Marshall was the 160th best guard in blocking grading per PFF. So I'm not very confident in this Minnesota offensive line. They're just going to be able to move piles all day like I am with some other teams. I do, like I said, I think the under is the play. I worry a little bit about a special teams play coming out from the Buffalo side with Victor Snow, but I do lean Buffalo. I think they can hang. Not sure I'm going to jump on it though.
Yeah, Pete Lumbo's known for special teams, yep. And you mentioned Snow, but the rest of their special teams are actually a major question mark. So that I'm curious to see how they're kicking and punting early on. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, lean Buffalo. I'm probably going to be the under. We'll definitely be looking to bet that game live as well. Let's move on to 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Talk a little Nebraska, Cincinnati. Cincinnati is still holding on. I think this is going to get the 7. You can get a juiced 7 on Cincy. Let's see. Yeah, there's a flat 7 out there. 7 minus 110 is out there. Total 54.5. You look at this roster. It's a young Nebraska roster, which, maybe year 3 for Matt Rule is usually the leap. Maybe the real leap is next year, because 72% of this roster is underclassmen. So they're building. The biggest question this year, it's twofold. One, does Raiola take that leap at quarterback? Very inconsistent, even down the stretch last year. Wasn't great. And Dana Holgerson, now the full-time OC, after taking over last year, what's that impact? But I like their offensive line. They had a ton of guys that were injured last year, so they have just a bunch of options and a lot of experience there. The defense is what I'm worried about with Nebraska. You lose your defensive coordinator. You lose 4 to the NFL, 4 to Power 4. They need some of their young guys, some of the transfers to hit, especially in the front 7. and you even have like an Idaho transfer that's probably going to start at cornerback. That defense is the question for me. On the other side of the ball, on the other side of the field, Cincinnati, they also bring back returning quarterback Brennan Sorsby, but they do lose Corey Kreiner in the backfield. Still think they're okay there, but they lose their top 5 receivers, 4 offensive linemen. That's my biggest concern on this offense. Now, Sorsby, pretty inconsistent, not great throwing downfield. And that was that. Nebraska had trouble with explosives last year. I think he had like a 28% adjusted completion percentage on 20-plus air yard throws. Sorsby was not good throwing the ball deep. Mm-hmm. Look out for this kid Caldwell, wide receiver from Lindenwood. He's getting a lot of hype. But the offensive line for Cincy has been the one thing that could rely on in the past couple of years. That's not the case this year. That's my biggest concern for them. But can the Nebraska defensive line is a question for me. So how does that matchup play out? Is definitely something worth watching. I do think Cincy's defense should be better up front because you get Hunt and Coleman back from injury. Both of those guys, they lost them last year and they really felt it. And then Corleone, the Godfather, he's back in the middle. Linebackers are still good, even though they lost their best one. Defensive backs transfer heavy. I like the kid McDoom, but there's still some question marks on the back end. My first thought here was over. I just have questions about the Nebraska defense. The Cincy defense, while improved, I still think they can be got on the back end. These are 2 special teams that were awful last year that are expected to be improved. New coach for both. Which one is actually improved? That could end up deciding this game. And then these are 2 teams that over the last couple of years, you never trust in close games. So Nebraska, everyone knows their track record in close games. It's the worst team in all of college football over the past 10 years. But since he's known under Satterfield, it's not like they've been great in close games, and they'll get a lead and they'll blow it. I would trust Rule and the staff much more in the second half if they're trailing, like making halftime adjustments. So that's something I might be looking for. Lean over here. Let me see where I project this. Projected 7 on the dot. This is in Kansas City, by the way, so technically in neutral. So I'm right on market for this game. I'm at 56 on the total. So, obviously 55 is the biggest key. Lean over a little bit. Nothing on the side. What say you?
Yeah, I project this 3 on a neutral, which I'm not really sure how neutral Arrowhead's going to be. I think every Nebraska fan in the world will be there. I wanted to fire on 7, and I'm just holding back. And the reason is because I can't back a team with questions at quarterback and offensive line. And Sorsby, can he produce more big-time throws and turnover-worthy plays? Because last year that ratio was 9-13. He's losing, all of his targets. His best returning target is his tight end, Joe Royer, who's one of the best in the Big 12. But after that, you have so many offensive line positions that are brand new. And you look at the pressure numbers that Sorsby had last year. He had 112 dropbacks with pressure, 4% turnover-worthy play rate. It's not horrible, but he only made 1 big-time throw when he had a crowded pocket. And there just is no faith in what Cincinnati can do on the offensive side here.
And his offensive line was really good last year. They had some dudes, and now it's a major question mark.
Yeah, but then again, you go to the other side of the ball. It's can Holgorsen solve that explosive piece that was needed so badly? Dane Key is a big piece from Kentucky. 2.5 yards per route run from the outside last year for a Wildcats offense that was kind of anemic. The offensive line, I think, can completely neutralize the Godfather. That's saying something with Corleone because, but Justin Evans Jr. at center, and then he is surrounded by 3 seniors on the line. I just think that's going to be able to neutralize what is the best part of the Cincinnati defense, which is that interior. So kind of a rock fight. And maybe that's what gets that number home. But I just cannot back Cincinnati with this offensive line and a quarterback that absolutely cannot do anything with pressure. And he isn't very good. He isn't above replacement level player when it comes to a clean pocket. So I lean Cincinnati. I understand the people buying 7 back to 6.5. I get it from a numbers perspective, but it's week 1 and I'm not investing my money in brand new offensive lines at all.
All right, let's close out the Big Ten here. Miami goes to Wisconsin. Wisconsin 17.5 point favorite, depending on where you look. Make sure you always shop around. Those half points matter. Wisconsin hired Jeff Grimes, got rid of Phil Longo. I think that's going to be a huge upgrade. It's a much better fit. The reliable, violent offense, the RPO offense. They bring in Billy Edwards from Maryland at quarterback. They're due to have a quarterback stay healthy. They do have to replace their right guard and left tackle. Both were lost to the NFL. Looks like it's going to be a freshman and then a MAC transfer at tackle. So that's certainly a question. But I think the offense, just coordinator-wise, is going to be better. I think the defense is going to be better, mainly because they addressed their biggest need from last year. Beginning of the year, there was injuries, and they just didn't have enough size up front. I mean, this is a team, the fewest amount of sacks in decades. They were bottom 10 in havoc and tackles for loss. There was just nothing up front. They couldn't get any help. I think their defense is going to be much better under Fickell on that side because of the portal additions up front. I really like what they did there. One of the reasons I bet Wisconsin's win total over. Miami is a mess, and I think they're going to be a mess to start the year. At bottom 10 returning production, they lost everyone on offense. They bring in DeQuan Finn, who used to play for Toledo, then he went down to Baylor. Now he's back at MIAOH. His mobility will help because this offensive line is super young, super inexperienced. They lost all 5 starters. I mean, this is an offense that lost 1,500 rush yards, 2,300 receiving yards, the top 13 in snap counts. I mean, they're at 6 either to the NFL or Power 4. So I don't know. This offense it's going to take some time. And Miami knows that. Now, so if you follow along in the app, you already know that Collin, I know that you played Wisconsin. I played Wisconsin. I also played first half. Am I scared? Yes. I mean, the total's 39.5. Do I love laying 17 with a total of 39.5 against a Miami team that, look, their defense, they lost their top 2 pass rushers, their 2 all-MAC linebackers who were huge, secondary, and their top corner to Auburn. Safeties are still solid. Cornerback's still a major question for me, and up front as well. I think Wisconsin's gonna be able to dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides, which is the difference here. But Miami's gonna take away explosives. They're gonna try to not give up big plays, and then they have really good special teams. Even with a new special teams coach, they still should be really good there. And if you look under Chuck Martin over the past 4 to 5 years, these games against these Power 4 teams, they find ways to just ugly it up. I mean, go back to the Notre Dame game last year. I mean, it was, what was that, 28-3? That game was disgusting. So am I a little bit scared? Yes. But I just think Miami of Ohio it's funny, they lost a 6-year starting quarterback, and they're going to DeQuan Finn, who's now in his 7th year. But I think Fickell knows how important this year is. I think they want to get off to a bang. They know how tough the schedule is. Yeah, I guess the other thing I should mention, the other thing that scares me and why I played some first half too, is I'm not sure how Wisconsin wants to approach this. I mean, you look, by the way, I mentioned Miami of Ohio. Last year at Northwestern, they lost 13-6. Notre Dame, it was 28-3. Cincinnati, it was 27-16. They know how to ugly up these games, which does scare me. The other thing that scares me with Wisconsin is they have one of the hardest schedules in the country. Now, they don't have a tough game next week. They host Middle Tennessee. But after that, it's at Alabama and then Big Ten, and it's brutal throughout. Does Fickell say, we know how tough this slate is? I want to get, guys rest to make sure I don't have injuries, and then they don't really push it, and they pull their starters a little early if they're up, and there's some backdoor risk. I don't know, but that's definitely something worth mentioning in a game with a total of 39. But there are too many questions on this Miami team. I think they're going to struggle early. They might figure it out by the time MAC play rolls around, but I'm not a huge fan of Finn. I think we'll probably make a couple of mistakes. So I'm on Wisconsin. I split some on the first half as well.
Yeah, Wisconsin minus 17 for me. It's still out there. It's getting juiced now. Cute little move to 16.5 where it got scooped up and now it's being juiced. I wouldn't be surprised to see this number run. I actually make this Wisconsin in the high 20s. You're talking about games getting uglied up with Miami of Ohio. We have the king of ugly it up at the offensive coordinator job now for Wisconsin with Jeff Grimes. He wants to line up and punch you in the face on the ground, and that is a really bad scenario for this Miami of Ohio defense, who's expected to have one of the best back sevens in the MAC from a pass defense perspective. but from a run defensive perspective, it is not good whatsoever. So, I think Billy Edwards Jr. is going to be running more than he's going to be throwing. We'll see what Dupree and James can do in the backfield. But this offensive line for Wisconsin should absolutely mash Miami of Ohio all day. And that's going to be the play calling from Jeff Grimes. So I don't have any concerns about Wisconsin moving piles, getting into scoring position, and Grimes driving it in. Does Fickle take his foot off the pedal? I don't know. At this point, we need bonus points. We really do. I mean,
after last year, not getting to a bowl in front of your home crowd, I feel like they want to. They don't know how many wins you're going to get this year. This is
you and I know, like you and I both know. We've talked about this extensively. Coaches know what spreads are. Coaches know, but I know that Fickle knows what the spread is. So I just leave it at that. That you need bonus points with your alumni and your fan base. That could be in the back of his mind too. I have no faith in DeQuan Finn. The corners that Wisconsin have with Forkorian and Hallman, they had 9 combined PBUs last year. Even if DeQuan Finn is able to get loose and make some yards up, I mean, he is what Cam Ward light from the days of the fumble days. So, I mean, there's a lot of havoc allowed, a lot of balls on the turf, on the carpet. So I don't have really any concerns with Wisconsin. I think when it dipped to 16.5, I thought, well, I think some people are trying to get the better number of 17, and now you see the market just getting pounded with Wisconsin money, as I think it should be.
All right. One other quick game: Wyoming at Akron. Akron 7-point dogs. Another game, a lot of uncertainty here. I would assume Wyoming's offense should look more competent with Anderson at quarterback all year. He took over late last year, although he did look good, but really only against really bad defenses.
Only against New Mexico.
Yeah. And the offensive line, they do have some experience. They had a lot of injuries last year. But the defense, total reset. They need youth and some FCS guys to step up. Akron side, you have Finley back at quarterback, which is big, but the rest of the roster is a complete reset. A lot of lower level guys, just like a lot of these MAC teams. And I think Wyoming's a program on the decline for what it's worth. But I mean, Akron lost their top 9 in snap counts on the defensive side. Special teams could also take a huge step back. They were actually pretty good for Akron last year. Lose a really, really good punter. But their defense, major question mark. Their offensive line, as always, will be a major question mark. They need Adams to be healthy at receiver. I don't know. A lot of uncertainty in this game. Akron also has the postseason ban. Where are they at mentally, physically? I don't know. This game is difficult for me to handicap, but I do think good round robin piece. I projected it 6.5 in between there. I'll probably have Akron. I'm going to do a round robin with games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'll probably throw Akron in there to start things off on Thursday. High variance game. Probably come down to dumb shit, to be honest. No strong take, but Akron money line. I'll find a way to have something here in this high variance fest.
Yeah, I lean Akron here. I don't know, but I make it 8, and I don't know why I'm hesitating. It really 7 should be good enough here. I don't know if it's that Wyoming can get the ball and score. That's kind of a joke. I don't know if they can against anybody, but Ben Finley could be one of the best quarterbacks in the MAC. His last 4 games in conference last year, Buffalo, NIU, Kent State, and Toledo, which some of those are pretty good teams in the MAC. He had 10 big-time throws and 5 turnover-worthy plays. Ben Finley really came into his own at the end of last year. There's experience in the 2 deep secondary, but I mean, there's a lot of void. I'm sorry, there is a void of experience in the 2 deep in the secondary in the back half of this defense of the 4-2-5. So that worries me a little bit about the Akron side. But do I expect Caden Anderson to get into that? He had 5 big time throws against New Mexico, and he only had 8 on the entire season, which means he only had 3 outside of the New Mexico game. The new running backs, Harris from North Texas, Kellen out of Charlotte. Kellen specifically had some really good numbers, yards after first contact. Terrible yards after first contact, really good juke numbers with missed tackles forced, which means he's going to be able to, swerve around the field against Akron, but the second he gets touched, he usually goes down, at least from his numbers from 2 years at Charlotte. I like Akron here. The motivation thing is interesting for me with this team because of the postseason implications. Do you take these games more seriously because every game is your bowl game? We'll see. I want to get in on Akron too. I do like Ben Finley. It's a play on Akron. If they are continually hounded in the market, it's a play on team for me because I do think they have some offensive consistency and quality that we can look forward to.
Elsewhere, just Missouri and Missouri and Oklahoma State play FCS teams. I will have my eye on them just for the quarterback battles. So I'll be keeping my eye on there. And then we also have San Diego State, your favorite team.
Yeah.
They are taking on Stony Brook. It's time for the first San Diego State total. We're going nowhere fast of the year. San Diego State's out to 18.5-point favorite. I do think they waxed Stony Brook. This is at 10 p.m. Eastern on Mountain West Network. Total's sitting at 53.5. You got 10 seconds on this game?
Yeah, we're going over 53.5. Stony Brook, moderate tempo, better than average. Last year, their offense increased from 314 yards per game to 403 yards per game, and they're moving at a faster tempo. We know what Aztec Fast is, and Sean Lewis. Let's go over 53.5 to get this string. I think what did we go 10-2? Did I go 10-2 on Nowhere Fast last year? Let's go San Diego State.
All right, there's your first one of the year. Yeah, you did totally redeem yourself last year. All right, let's move on to Friday night. I don't have as hot a takes on Friday, so I'm gonna we'll go fairly quick. We'll go a little quicker on these games. Western Michigan at Michigan State. That Michigan State has taken some money in this game. Western Michigan, it looks like they're going to play both quarterbacks, Brock Lowry and Brady Jones, the JUCO transfer. Not sure how that's going to go. I was hoping that Brady Jones won it, but it's been just neck and neck for the entire camp. Michigan State's taken money, and then there was a little bit of buyback here. Year 2, Jonathan Smith, Aiden Childs, can he take the leap? Offensive line, still a major question there. Does that hold them back? They also lost, 2 running backs to the NFL. They lost some other receivers besides Marsh. They've had some injuries at wide receiver and tight end in camp. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's definitely some questions here with Michigan State. Even if one of their senior safeties might miss this game. They had so many injuries, though, in the secondary. You would think they would be better. Special teams also could be a disaster for Michigan State. So, you're needing the cover. I think due to injuries, their kicker could be this D2 guy who didn't kick in 3 years when he was on a D2 school. He didn't attempt one field goal because they've had some injuries at kicker. I don't know. That's definitely worth noting. I trust Smith. I think they'll have them ready here. Western Michigan is a mess. They were top 15 in experience last year. They're outside the top 100 now. They're 128th returning production. New DC scheme change. Their offense loses their quarterback, running back, top receiver, 4 very, very good offensive linemen. The D was hit hard with losses, and then even more in the spring. They need some power forecast offs to hit. I don't know. Tough game for me. I probably won't have anything here. For what it's worth, I project close to. I project 22.5. So my numbers say Michigan State under 3 touchdowns is worth a look, but probably not enough to get involved with all the uncertainty here. And Western Michigan running out 2 quarterbacks. I'm not sure what that distribution is going to look like. So this is probably a pass for me. What do you see?
Yeah, I made this 17.5. So when I saw the steam, it's I understand the steam, but there are things of this game that I need to write down on a notepad, and then you and I go review it on Sunday, which is Aiden Childs entering his 3rd season. He had 143 pressures and 374 dropbacks last season. This kid has not lived in the world of college football without pressure in his face, no matter where he has been. I still don't know.
And they lost their top 2 offensive linemen somehow.
Right. I don't know what Aiden Childs' ceiling can be, and he's entering his 3rd season because the kid has never had a clean pocket whatsoever. So I'm looking to see against this new Western Michigan everything. Are they going to be able to keep a clean pocket? That is going to be checkmark number 1. Checkmark number 2 is going to be the running back position, which is Elijah Tolliver, who comes in from Sacramento State. When you get Sacramento State transfers, you need to pay attention. Although his career numbers over with the Hornets, 2.8 yards after first contact, that's not Scattaboo type. But Nick Marsh is good at wideout, 2.1 yards per route run for the Spartans last season. That is the connection that Childs will need. But keep your eyes on Tolliver at running back. If he flashes, then maybe maybe we got something cooking here at Michigan State, but really I want to look at the box score and see how many pressures this offensive line has to protect Childs, or it's a season of more of the same.
Yeah, if you can't block this Western Michigan team, then it could be trouble.
Right.
Kennesaw, Wake. This is similar to Jack State UCF.
Yeah.
Like, same exact vibes here. Two teams, new staffs, roster reset. Wake Forest is 17.5-point favorite. Like, spread is even in the same range. Total is down to 51.5. Kennesaw State, new coach, Jerry Mack, who's recently with the Jags. New offensive coordinator is a hypo guy. You can see some beer and shoot here. New defensive coordinator came from like the Euro League. They brought in a ton of like 14 offensive linemen.
Sound like urinal league. No, Euro League. Yeah.
The Urinal League. They brought in a ton of offensive linemen. They got bigger on paper in the trenches. They got some dudes on the back end of their defense, but a lot of uncertainty here. Dexter Williams, who's been all over the place, will be the quarterback. I'm not sure how this is going to work, but maybe their defense could be feisty. Not sure how good the defensive line is going to be, which could be a problem here in this particular matchup because you're going up against Wake Forest, who new head coach Jake Dickert takes over for Dave Clawson. When that happened, they lost 7 starters to the portal. They lost all 5 of their offensive linemen, 4 to Power 4. Although that speaks to like how maybe bad the portal was this year. I mean, 4 of those Wake Forest offensive linemen went to Power 4. They weren't great, but they lost their top 4 receivers, 3 to Power 4. Their quarterback, their top tight end. You're going to see a different offense. It's not the slow mesh. It's going to be more outside zone runs, more 12 personnel. And it's going to be Robbie Ashford at quarterback. So more importantly, it's going to be a lot of Claiborne, who's their best player. You're going to see him a lot. The D for Wake Forest, their offense is a total reset besides Claiborne pretty much. The D has a little more experience, but there's still transfers all over. I love Patterson at the nickel, but other than that, a lot of questions. The offense has a couple of Wazoo guys that came with Dickert on the offensive line, but this is just going to be a lot of Claiborne, a lot of Ashford running.
Yep.
They might be able to have success doing that against Kennesaw. Yeah. Let me see. I want no part of this game, but I project this at 17-6. So I'm right on market. And I'm at 50.5. So nothing for me here. What do you see?
I make the total 40. I want the first half under in this game, just for all the new pieces that are going on. I mean, that quarterback battle at Kennesaw between Dexter Williams and Amari Odom, I expect to see them both running the pistol, and I don't think they're going to run it effectively whatsoever. Dickert has seen plenty of that in his time. He was actually, remember the Washington State DC, although the Washington State defense seemed to be the one that was the problem all the years. I don't know how Dickert got a raise going to Wake Forest as the head coach. Yeah, you're right. It's going to be a lot of Robbie Ashford running around. So the thing that I kind of hang my hat on with this game is the fact that Kennesaw State, the one redeeming metric they had last year is that they finished 42nd in PFF tackling. Everything else was a complete dumpster fire, but they can tackle in space. And that's exactly what you're going to get with what this new Wake offense is going to be. I expect very slow tempos. I don't expect a lot of offensive efficiency here. A lot of new faces on the Wake Forest program. Kennesaw offense that's just incompetent, and the defense that can actually kind of tackle. I'm going to play first half under. Actually, I think I'm going to do it now.
All right, let's move on to Charlotte. App State. Sadly, no more Biff for Charlotte. We will miss him, but they did bring in Tim Alvin, who we like, and he showed that he can turn around a program, and he can do a lot with lower level guys, and he's going to need some lower level guys to step up for Charlotte. This game will be played, by the way, in Bank of America Stadium, sitting at 6.5, pretty much across the board. App State minus 6.5 total, 50.5. 2 new head coaches here, Dal Loggins, who we're not fans of. He's the 4th head coach in 7 years at App State. He'll call plays. I think this is a program on the decline. It's pretty sad because I think college football is better when Boone is on fire and this team is good. But they lost a lot. Like, they lost their quarterback to UCLA, then Tennessee. They lost their top running back, their top 3 receivers, 4 offensive linemen. It's a complete reset on the offense. And look, I think A.J. Swan is going to be the guy, former Vandy guy. J.J. Cole was also in the mix, who transferred from Iowa State. Their defense has been on the decline for the past couple of years. Last year, the run D was bad. Their pass D's been bad the last couple of years. Used to be reliable. They need some transfers to hit on the defensive side of the ball. Same thing with Charlotte, though. Like, they lost their top 3 quarterbacks, their top 3 running backs, their top 6 receivers, 4 offensive linemen also. They're going to need some lower-level guys to hit. Look, they're going to run like Connor Howell just got named the quarterback. It was a 3-way race with a bunch of guys that had at least Power 4 experience, game experience. Harrell won the job. You're going to see like a spread option, run heavy offense here from Charlotte. I do have a lot of questions. 4-2-5 base. They have a lot of questions about their cornerback position. And do I think App State can fully take advantage? Not really. Look, obviously everything I just said, ton of uncertainty on both sides. I took the points, and my main thinking is a lot of uncertainty here. I want the coach. I want Albin.
Yeah.
I trust Albin way more than Loggins. So give me that touchdown in my pocket. That was pretty much the handicap for against an App State team that I'm low on. I project this around 5. So, yeah, obviously shop around weight. It's in at 6.5. See if that 7 pops, or if you can find a cheaper one out there. But I took the points here. I show a little bit of value, and that's my handicap here. Lot of uncertainty, new quarterbacks on both sides. Give me the coach who's proven that he can do this with, like, look at Ohio last year. Brand new roster. A lot of uncertainty. And he took them to the MAC championship and won their first title for the first time since the 60s. So, yeah, give me Albin over Loggins. What say you?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's the coach here that you want to back from what Albin's done. Listen, if Connor Harrell can run inside zone quarterback keepers and with multiple running back sets like a Rourke brother, then Charlotte can cook. Albin loves to use tight ends here, so it's kind of a bitch of an offense to prepare for, and we'll see if App State is up to the task here, because I don't think that they are whatsoever. And then on the other side, the pro style spread, the RPOs, the bootlegs, the play action, they're going to want to get JJ Cole and AJ Swan to throw verticals. I don't think that they're going to be able to get that done. They do have a good wide receiver in Dalton Stroman, 1.9 yards per route run in his 4-year career, but I think it's a pretty simplified offense that you can detect and you can defend. It's just not very complex, and I think Ohio is going to be able to scheme against that. Now,
not Ohio, although Charlotte, you mean?
Charlotte, yeah. So
but Charlotte has a bunch of Ohio linebackers, which should help with the transition. That their defense is going to look like Ohio's linebackers from last year.
I did play the first half under last night when I was doing the podcast notes. I'm not sure App State can get that vertical passing game going right off the start. If you know anything about Albin's offense, it's ball control between the tackles, a slower tempo. There's some offensive line continuity for the 49ers here, so I expect them to be able to control the ball, longer possessions, eat clock, and do what they want. So I like the first half under here too. I mean, it's really kind of the theme, right? We're getting new coaches, new players, new schemes, new everything. First half unders are really the way that you want to look.
All right, a couple games that I have nothing on before we get to Auburn-Baylor, which is the highlight of Friday. Although it's worth mentioning Tarleton State against Army. Tarleton is really good at the FCS.
I'm hearing a run to the FCS national title is what I'm hearing.
Looked really good. And look, Army has a lot of question marks, especially on the offensive side after losing Daly. And it's not like, I mean, look, Service Academy laying over 2 touchdowns against a team that looks competent. Although it is usually an advantage to not play. And they saw what Tarleton had last week. And this is one of the it's a rare example when I don't think that you would want, excuse me. So historically, and this is FBS versus FBS, teams making their debut hit it like 61% against teams that played in week 0. So that favors Army. And this is even worse for Tarleton, because you're playing a team with a unique scheme. So they're not able to prep. And it's on a short week, and they were just in Portland, and they're going across the country. Situationally, it's a nightmare, but I don't know. Maybe they wear down. And Army should have the ball a ton and just control the clock. But I don't. If you're feeling feisty, Tarleton money line maybe. Maybe this is like when Army lost to Fordham a couple years ago in their opener. But that should be a little entertaining game for the FCS FBS. Central Michigan, San Jose State. I'm just curious to see what Central Michigan looks like.
Yep.
I project 13. I got nothing there. And then UNLV, Sam Houston State, two teams that I want to fade hard. So I got nothing there. Anything in either UNLV's laying 10.5, total 61.5 against Sam Houston. Anything there for you?
Yeah, UNLV Sam Houston, I wrote up for action, so you guys can go out to the app and check out that article. Just to give away what is it? No sneak, no cookie, just to give away the cookie. But Sam Houston, I don't think is priced correctly. I think it's going to continue to come down. I think the tempo is going to be pretty fast here, and there is some issues tackling for both teams. So, go ahead and read about that and see what you can pull from it. As far as Central Michigan, San Jose State, you're right. It is a watch game. What are the two things we're looking for? And maybe we can discuss on Sunday. One, that Central Michigan offense under Matt Drinkhall. He's going to bring that Army style that he was running. So we're going to, and there's multiple quarterbacks in line. We got to figure out which one is the best to run this offense. And then on the other side of the ball, Leland Smith, transfer from Purdue. He's going to try to fill the shoes of Nick Nash and Walker against when he's under center. So those are the two things. That's a watch game and take notes game, because these are two teams we want to bet on in the future.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see much triple from Central, but you're going to see like a modified rushing attack option. So we'll see how that looks. I want no part of either game. But let's talk a little Auburn-Baylor. That is the marquee game on Friday night. Auburn is out to a 2.5-point favorite here. Total ticked up a bit to 57.5. My main concern here for Baylor, I mean, the offense, I don't really have many questions about. Maybe like running back depth. It's really young, and they lost Pendergrass, who was like their power back, but you don't want him to be number one. We saw that when Washington got hurt, but maybe running back depth. But you got Hawkins eligible at receiver, so their receivers are great. I love the out of Wilson, who will help in special teams too. Their offensive line looks really good. I love Sawyer Robertson. So I don't have many questions about this offense, and I do have some questions about the Auburn defense. So Baylor should be able to put up its fair share of points. My biggest concern is the Baylor secondary. The reports I'm hearing and how this depth chart looks like it's shaking out, it's not what I wanted to see. I do like some of the defensive coach hires that they had, so maybe they can fix some of that. They were 127th in pass explosiveness last year, and now you're going up against a very, very talented Auburn wide receiver room. So can Aranda in his second year calling the D with some of these defensive staff hires, can they fix that secondary? That is my biggest concern. Auburn just on paper has more talent. I mean, look, they were top 10 in the portal, top 10 recruiting this year. But I don't like what I'm hearing out of Auburn. I love, again, Auburn also with their offense. I love the offensive line. I think finally they have the offensive line in place. The guys in the right place, experienced. It was just a huge hole for years. I think they finally figured it out. It does look like Singleton, who was one of the best wide receiver gets in the entire portal from Georgia Tech. Guy can fly. Just a big play waiting to happen on any down. It looks like he's close to 100%. So there were some injury questions in regards to him, but it looks like he's going to be good to go. That's important. But some of the things I'm hearing with Auburn, like in regards to play calling, is I think Freeze might just be playing games, was saying he might play Knight and Daniels at quarterback also. So I don't know. We'll see. I do think that Jackson Arnold is a good fit for the Freeze offense. If he starts slow, where is his confidence though? That's something I'm worried about. So I don't know. I mean, I'm high on Baylor, and I was higher than the market on Auburn. I'm starting to sour on Auburn just from what I'm hearing, just vibes wise. Baylor, I projected, I have this at 1. So if it got to 3, I might consider Baylor, but I am worried about the secondary. I might look at this live. Another wrench to throw into this. Looks like freshman kicker for Baylor. And McPherson, who was supposed to solve Auburn's kicking problems, which were a disaster last year. I think they were dead last in field goal percentage. Looks like he unfortunately had a setback health-wise. see, he might be going back to McGuff or whoever those guys were last year. So the kicking in this game, it's supposed to be a close game. Neither team should feel very confident in their kicking. So just keep that in mind. I don't know. If this gets a 3, I'll be tempted by Baylor, but I'm definitely concerned about the secondary. As of now, it's to stay away. Should be super entertaining game. Like both offenses should have big advantages. I know you like Auburn here. You played some early Auburn money line. What are you saying?
I did play Auburn early money line. I'm not worried about it. I mean, I know the warts that Auburn has, but there are problems with Baylor that I have too. I mean, Sawyer Robertson, people are crazy about him, especially after a 28-8 TD to INT, but he had a 15-16 big time throw to turnover worthy play rate. He was outside the top 65 and on target rate. That means he's not one of the top half quarterbacks in FBS that can hit a target in stride. DJ Durkin has to field the 3-3-5. They have 2 new defensive tackles, one from the portal. I mean, they're going to produce from the first snap, but I mean, we still have new faces there. Baylor finished top 10 in havoc allowed. So that's good for them. But at the same time, Robertson's turnover worthy plate triples when he has pressure. I think there is going to be pressure in this game a little bit, but when it happens, it's such a big key because he just turns into a sub player when he has hands in his face. And it's been that way now for a couple of years. Keep your eyes on the weather here. There was rain predicted in the first quarter last night when I looked at this. Now it's all predicted in the second half. So keep your eyes on that. It could be one of those things where if it is the first quarter, maybe you want to wait and play it live if something funky happens with a slippery ball. I don't really have issues.
This game's going to be weird. That's all I know.
Yeah.
And it's such a big game for both teams and their win totals and setting the tone for the rest of the year, especially Auburn. Auburn, the vibes could get really high.
Yeah.
If they win this game on the road to start the year with a lot of questions, or if they lose, I could see things, teetering. For
Baylor did not improve in their secondary, and they finished 118th in coverage grading last year. They're just not creating contested catches. And that is a really bad scenario against Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech, who was 2.2 yards per route run. He could play both wideout and slot.
Cam, too, is one of the best.
Cam Coleman is one of the best wideouts. Malcolm Simmons, 2.3 yards per route run from the slot. I mean, this Horatio Fields from Wake Forest is even pretty good. He's just not – he didn't put up the numbers that the other 3 did, but, I mean, they're literally 4 wide receivers.
Pretty good number 4. And Aranda just keeps talking about stopping the run. It's dude, Auburn's probably okay, we'll just throw all over you.
Right. And with Aranda calling the defense, his big deal is I love Dave Aranda because he's just so honest and so truthful. I've never seen a coach just be able to just tell you exactly everything they're going to do and everything they're thinking. He doesn't hide anything. And when he's calling the defense for Baylor, it's the same thing they did at LSU. It's just so complex. It's like 8 different personnel and schemes that they're running all the time. And if that doesn't work, if they're defense does not grasp what they want to do here, Hugh Freeze could put something up on the chalkboard that could confuse Aranda a little bit. I mean, I know there's definitely history with those 2 calling against each other. So I don't really have issues back in Auburn. So I know there's a stall at the 2.5. I do think it's getting outside the power rating numbers where we're at. But when you look at just everything from Jackson Arnold's finally going to be protected with that offensive line. Jackson Arnold's got weapons out the wazoo. I don't like Baylor's secondary, and I don't like Sawyer Robertson under center when he gets pressure. And I think Auburn is going to be able to produce a little bit of pressure. So all those things combined, I like Auburn.
Yeah, a couple of the guys who I was counting on taking a lead for the Baylor secondary, it sounds like that hasn't happened from what I've heard. Doesn't mean it can't, but I haven't just heard the things that I wanted to hear about this Baylor secondary, which is obviously a huge matchup in this game. All right, quick recap. That's, I think, 17, 18 games and a little over an hour for Thursday, Friday. Our next episode, part 2, that'll be normal format. So we'll go through the biggest games. We'll do, obviously Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, Florida State, LSU, Clemson, and then we'll hit rundown a bunch. We'll bring trash back, Colin on Arkansas, 3 and out. That'll sound like your normal podcast. For those that are new here, you'll see what that's like. But for this, we just wanted to get out our thoughts on all the games Thursday, Friday. So we'll close out with just run down what you like. You can just highlight a couple bets. I'll start. I like USF on Thursday. Rutgers, NC State team total over. I think the pace will be there, and I think the ECU defense is going to get carved up. Might even get some Hauser turnovers to help you out there. I played Wisconsin, split it with first half and game. Little worried about just the total and how Miami of Ohio is going to play and just try to ugly that game up. But do show enough value, and I'm worried enough about Miami of Ohio to get involved there. Lean Buffalo. Think I prefer the under. Still waiting there. Probably have Akron in like some kind of round robin for fun. And if you want to get really crazy with just some couch change and fun, Tarleton money line against Army. How about you? Quick summary.
We're gonna put that in the round robin. I think you and I, opposite of the ACC pod, I think you and I didn't disagree on a single thing today. So I echo everything that you have to say.
Oh, we will on tonight.
Yeah, I know. I know Saturday's games. I know. I like USF also. Rutgers over 31.5 team total. I'd take the 32 also. Wisconsin minus 17 if you still get it, even if it's juice. I think you should go out there and get that. Charlotte, App State, too many new faces, under 26.5 first half. Same thing, Kennesaw and Wake, two offenses are incompetent, under 27 first half is out there. Do like Auburn, don't care what the number is, up to 3. I wouldn't go past that. And then after that, go read about Sam Houston and what the tempo of that game is going to be.
Yeah, a lot to watch, a lot to learn, which is one of my favorite parts about week 1 and today's new college football, because I'm going to be very right about some teams and very wrong about a lot. So hopefully we found some winners for Thursday and Friday headed into the weekend, which we'll cover on the next episode, part 2, which will be out shortly. If you can, take a second, subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy, you know the drill. Leave a 5-star review, really helps us out this time of year. I'm going to do some giveaways. Just go on, say whatever you want, leave a 5-star review, or just go on review and then hit the 5 stars. If you've already done it, borrow your girlfriend, your friend, your wife, your husband, whatever, your phone, and just click that for us. It really helps us out this time of the year. But thanks to our producer, Matt Mitchell. Thanks to Colin, as always. Thanks to everyone who came out to Chicago. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. We will be back shortly with part 2 hitting Saturday and Sunday. Catch y'all later. Cheers.
Peace out.